Why is it so hard for people to have empathy, let alone communicate and express empathy? My name is Vital Germain. I'm author of Pink is the Color of Empathy, your 360 guide to all things empathy. So why is it so complicated and so hard for people to do? It comes down to basically one element, and that is we don't completely understand what empathy means. And through that misunderstanding, we are afraid to communicate empathy, thinking that if I show empathy, if I let that person know that I understand them, it says that I agree or condone their response, their reaction, their behavior. And that is so far from the truth. So let's break down and look why that happens. What does empathy actually mean? Empathy means I'm going to put myself into your emotional state, your shoes, so to speak. And so this is an example of what happens. Somebody has an experience and it makes them feel pain, suffering, guilt, hurt. Silly example, I'm upset because of what that person said. They disrespected me. And I hear that story and I think to myself, well, the reason why you felt disrespected to me is totally silly. Why would you feel disrespected for that? It is so trivial. But empathy doesn't mean that I agree with why you felt disrespected. Empathy means I have been disrespected before for reasons that you not might find valid, but I know what disrespect feels like. Therefore, whether I agree with you or not, I know what disrespect feels like. It's not a good feeling. Therefore, I know that right now you are currently feeling something that is not pleasant. And that's what I'm empathizing with. I'm empathizing with your emotional state, not the incident or the situation that led to your emotional state. And if we can psychologically break that down and understand what empathy is, it becomes so much easier to communicate, to share, to let somebody know, I understand you. And one of the biggest gifts you can give somebody other than your time and your attention is simply to validate, acknowledge their experience, their emotions. Everybody feels disrespected for different reasons. Everybody is offended by different comments. Just because this specific situation doesn't impact me, because empathy means it's not about me, it's about you. So just because this particular situation doesn't impact me, doesn't mean that I am the authority on global emotional responses. I might find it trivial. For example, somebody gets fired, and for one person that is devastating, it is the end of the world. But simply because I'm stoic and I say, getting fired is no big deal. Because for me, it's no big deal, but for you, it's everything. This job, this career defined your existence. Whether that is correct or not is secondary. That job defined your existence, you were fired, and your heart is completely devastated. You've got a sense of guilt, a sense of lack of self-worth. You've been undermined, you've been undervalued. And because I find it insignificant, I negate your emotion and I say, it's no big deal. Because to me, it's no big deal.
But remember, it's not about me. Empathy is about you, the other person.
Flip the situation. I know I'm a human, so regardless of how stoic you are, you know what guilt feels like. You know what shame feels like. You know what pain feels like. You know what hurt and suffering feels like. So all you do is understand they're the emotions. I felt those emotions for a different situation, so therefore I can empathize with you for different reasons, and that's all empathy is. It's understanding what emotional need does this person have right now, and the need is always to be validated, to be acknowledged, to not feel like you are wrong or insane to have an emotional response. We as humans are sentient beings by default. We feel, we experience emotions, and that's all empathy is. So next time you want to express empathy, understand that it doesn't mean you agree with the why, It doesn't mean you agree with the way they are responding. All it means is, I know the feeling of pain, and I am validating your feeling of pain. And that's as simple as it is to have empathy. But more importantly, having empathy is one thing. Until you are able to communicate that empathy to another human being, your empathy is insignificant. Now you know. If you want to find out more about empathy, pink is the color of empathy. It does a deep dive into the emotional impact of people who are highly sensitive. It's all about recovering from tragedy. It's about resilience. And it's also about how you can leverage this superpower, because empathy is actually the most powerful tool that can bring two humans together, allow them to connect on a deep level because they understand each other, they acknowledge each other, and that is intimacy. And that's what all human beings are looking for. That's why we're here to
connect.